of my previous videos, I showed you how to build a custom enclosure for your generator, and it even has remote start capabilities. In today's video, I'm going to be looking into what happens if something goes wrong and there's a fire with my generator. Alright, so I was brainstorming some ideas what to do. You got to think, inside with the generator, you've got at least a 5-gallon gas tank sitting on top of the generator. So if it gets too hot and starts a fire, it would very easily spread to the house, and this enclosure probably wouldn't do a very good job of containing the fire. The first step is to shut down the generator if it gets too hot. In my previous video I talked a little bit about that, and there's a link below to that video if you didn't see it. But there's a heat sensor that is mounted in the control panel that will automatically shut down the generator if it gets too hot. So that's step number one. Step number two, if it catches on fire, I need some kind of system to put it out. And most conventional fire suppression systems are very expensive. It's not necessarily going to work good because it's the temperature extremes. In the summertime, it's going to be very hot in this enclosure. Right now in the winter, it gets down to, in the teens or below inside of this enclosure. And that's when it's not running, obviously. So I need something reliable that can work in all weather. So I was watching some videos online, and there are multiple different types of fire suppression systems that once the flame touches them, they will actually explode and go off and put out the fire. There's some tube type systems, and there's also these fire suppression balls. They're not really sold a whole lot here in the United States. There's mixed reviews on how they work, but I'll show you. This one is a more of a knockoff one. It is only $33 on Amazon, so that makes it kind of attractive, but only if it works. So inside the box, so here's what it looks like. It's just a little smaller than a bowling ball. Also in the box is this little metal stand. That's meant for, it's depending on your mounting options, you can set it on there. Basically what this is, it's like a big firework. It's made out of styrofoam. Inside there's a dry chemical that will extinguish a fire. Then there's a fuse that runs underneath the plastic all the way around the ball, so when the fire touches the fuse, it ignites it, this explodes, and the fire suppression chemical, in theory, extinguishes your flames. On the side of the box, it's got some poorly translated Chinese to English writing. Basically it says that as long as the ball has been touched for 3 to 5 seconds by flame reaching 70 degrees Celsius, AFO will automatically extinguish the fire effectively and rapidly. And it says you can either roll the ball into the situation, or in our case we're going to have it mounted inside of the generator cabinet so that it's suspended above the generator. That way if there is fire in here, it will set it off and hopefully contain everything to inside of the box before it gets out of control. Here's the instructions that come in the box. Like I said, for $33 a piece, it's worth giving it a shot. It might work. So I bought 2 of them. I bought one to test and one to actually mount inside of here. Alright, so here's my little test rig that I developed. Obviously, I'm not going to start a real fire in my generator shed, so I wanted to simulate it the best I could. So I took some cardboard boxes and lined the inside with foil to help kind of contain the fire so it just doesn't rapidly consume the box. We'll put some flammable liquids down in the bottom of the box and a little bit of combustibles. Then I'll have a fuse running to it. So we'll see if it ignites inside of here. The flame should come around the ball, it should explode and put out the fire. So this is how we're going to test it. You can see that I used the metal ring that came with the AFO ball and suspended it with some wire from the top of the box so it can hang over the fire, similar to how it will be mounted inside of the generator cabinet. It'll just be mounted a little bit better, obviously. And I'm going to run a wick out the bottom of the box here, that way I can light it and get away, because I'm going to put a decent amount of flammable liquid inside, some gasoline. That way it is simulating what would happen if the generator were to catch on fire. Obviously the generator would be a little bit more explosive and a lot more fuel, but I think this will give us an idea of whether or not it'll work. Alright, well, we're all set up, we're ready to go. Got a fire extinguisher just in case, even though it's in a pretty safe spot, nothing around it. Don't try this at home. All right, well, it worked, but it just reignited. So I guess it kind of worked. It put the fire out, but then there was still enough heat to reignite all the fuel that was in there. Now, if this wasn't a cardboard box and it was sealed, more like the generator shed, it might work. I guess I'm just glad to see that it actually exploded and did what it was supposed to do, but I guess I can't really have confidence that it will completely extinguish the fire and keep it out. When we watch it again in slow motion, you can see that it's actually the gasoline that reignited on the ground in front of it. So maybe as long as it was contained, it would have put it out completely. And it probably would have stayed out. Let me know in the comments if you've had any experience with one of these, or if you've planned on using one, or what you use for a fire suppression system. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe. Leave a comment below. We'll see you next time. Oh yeah, I almost forgot. Here's how I mounted it inside of the generator cabinet here, just to the back wall in its little wire ring. So if nothing else, the explosion will let us know there's a problem.